Greetings on the channel. Today I will tell you a very emotional story about a little girl. Be sure to watch the video until the end to fully appreciate the story. Also be sure to subscribe to my channel. Lena was a happy-go-lucky little girl, full of life and energy. She loved to play outside and run around in the sunshine. Her parents were proud of her and loved watching her grow up. One day, when she was 8 years old, she was playing on the street in front of her house with her friends. They were chasing each other and having a great time. Lena's mother was watching her from the porch and enjoying the beautiful day. She was about to call Lena in for lunch when she heard a loud noise. She turned around to see a car driving down the street at a high speed. The driver was looking down at his phone and didn't see the children playing in the road. Lena's mother screamed and ran towards her daughter. The car swerved and missed most of the children, but it hit Lena. Lena's mother rushed to her side, panic and fear coursing through her body. The driver of the car got out, pale and shaking. He couldn't believe what he had just done. Lena lay still on the ground, unconscious, her body twisted in an unnatural position. Her mother knelt down beside her and checked for a pulse. She was relieved to find that Lena was still alive, but she knew that she had to act quickly if she was going to save her daughter's life. She called an ambulance, and within minutes, Lena was rushed to the hospital. The driver of the car followed in his own car, feeling sick to his stomach with guilt and fear. Lena's parents were both at her side in the hospital, waiting for news on their daughter. They had to wait for hours while the doctors worked on her. Finally, the surgeon came out and told them that Lena had a broken leg and arm, as well as several cuts and bruises, but that she was going to be okay. They were relieved to hear this news, but they were also angry. Angry at the driver who had caused this accident, angry at the world for being so unpredictable, and angry at themselves for not being able to protect their daughter. The driver of the car was waiting outside the hospital room, too afraid to come in and face Lena's parents. Days turned into weeks, and Lena slowly began to recover. She was in a lot of pain, but she was a fighter. Her parents stayed with her day and night, reading her stories and playing games with her to keep her spirits up. One day, while she was in her hospital bed, Lena woke up and saw the driver of the car sitting in a chair beside her bed. He was holding a small box in his hands and looking down at the floor. Lena's parents were in the room too, watching him with cold, hard eyes. Lena didn't know what to make of this strange man, but she could tell that he was sad. The driver looked up and saw that Lena was awake. He stood up and approached her bed, still holding the box in his hands. Lena's parents tensed up, ready to protect their daughter if need be. "I'm so sorry," the driver said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was looking down at my phone, and I didn't see you playing in the road. I'm so sorry." Lena's parents glared at him, but Lena looked up at him with big, innocent eyes. She didn't understand why this man was so sad, but she could tell that he was sorry. The driver handed her the box, and Lena opened it up. Inside was a small, delicate butterfly necklace. Lena smiled and put it on. She looked up at the driver and said, "It's okay. I forgive you." The driver was stunned. He had expected anger and hostility, but instead, he was met with forgiveness and understanding. Lena's parents were shocked, too, but they could see that their daughter had a big heart. As the driver left the hospital room, he couldn't stop thinking about Lena's words. They echoed in his head for weeks, and he realized that he needed to make a change in his life. He had been so focused on work and distracted by his phone that he had almost killed the little girl. He knew that he had to do better. So, he quit his job and took a few months off to travel and think. He went to places he had never been before, met people from all walks of life, and learned to slow down and appreciate the world around him. During his travels, the driver thought often about Lena and her forgiveness. He wondered how he could repay her for the gift she had given him. He decided that he would do something big and meaningful to show her that he was truly sorry for what he had done. Months later, he returned to Lena's hometown with a plan. He contacted her parents and asked if he could visit Lena and surprise her with something special. They were hesitant at first, but they could see that he was a changed man. When he arrived at the house, he was carrying a large canvas. He set it up in the backyard and invited Lena outside. As she stood there, he unveiled the canvas, and Lena's eyes widened in surprise. The canvas was a painting of Lena, surrounded by butterflies. It was beautiful and detailed, with every color and brushstroke done with care and precision. Lena was amazed. She had never seen anything like it. The driver explained that he had taken up painting during his travels, and that he had been inspired by Lena and her forgiving spirit. He had spent months working on the painting, trying to capture the essence of Lena's kind heart and joy for life. Lena's parents were moved by the gesture, and they could see that their daughter was touched, too. They invited the driver inside for tea and cookies, and they talked for hours about life, love, and forgiveness. It was a moment that would stay with them all forever. Over the next few years, the driver stayed in touch with Lena and her family. He sent her letters and postcards from his travels, and he even came back to visit a few times. Each time he visited, he brought with him something new and exciting: a piece of art, a book, a story. Just a minute, dear viewer, subscribe to my channel because I'm trying just for you. Lena grew up to be a happy and curious young woman with a passion for science and a love for nature. She never forgot the accident that had brought her and the driver together, but she also never held a grudge against him. She knew that he had changed his life because of what had happened, and that was enough for her. One day, when Lena was in college, she received a call from the driver's family. They told her that he had passed away, but that he had left something for her in his will. Lena was shocked. She hadn't seen the driver in a few years, but she had always thought of him as a friend. She wondered what he could have left her in his will. A few weeks later, Lena received a package in the mail. It was from the driver's family, and it contained a letter and a set of keys. The letter explained that the driver had left Lena his house and all of his possessions, including his art collection. Lena was speechless. She couldn't believe that the driver had thought so highly of her that he would leave her everything he owned. She went to visit the house, and she was amazed by its beauty and its history. It was a large, old house with high ceilings and intricate moldings, and it was filled with art and books and beautiful furniture. Lena knew that she couldn't keep the house for herself, but she also knew that she couldn't sell it or give it away. She decided that she would turn it into a museum, a place where people could come and see the driver's art and learn about his life. Lena spent the next few years working on the museum. She hired architects and designers to help her restore the house to its former glory, and she worked with art historians and curators to put together a collection of the driver's paintings and sculptures. The museum was a huge success. People came from all over the world to see the driver's art and learn about his life. They marveled at the beautiful house and the incredible collection, and they were moved by the story of the little girl who forgave the man who almost ran her over with his car. Lena was proud of what she had created, and she knew that the driver would be proud of her too. She had taken his gift of forgiveness and turned it into something beautiful, something that would inspire and educate people for generations to come. As the museum grew in popularity, Lena began to receive offers to buy it. Private collectors and wealthy investors offered her millions of dollars for the house and the art collection, but Lena refused them all. She knew that the museum was too important to sell, and she was determined to keep it open for as long as possible. One day, Lena received a visit from a man who introduced himself as a lawyer representing the driver's family. The man explained that the driver had left behind a large sum of money, and that the family wanted Lena to have it. Lena was surprised and grateful, but she also felt a little uneasy. She didn't want to accept money from the driver's family, especially if it meant that they would expect her to do something in return. The lawyer sensed Lena's hesitation, and he reassured her that the money came with no strings attached. He told her that the driver's family knew how much the museum meant to her, and that they wanted to support her in any way they could. Lena thought about it for a moment, and then she decided to accept the money. With the money from the driver's family, Lena was able to expand the museum and add new exhibits and programs. She hired more staff and started a scholarship program for young artists, and she began to travel the world to collect more art and artifacts for the museum. But even as the museum grew and flourished, Lena never forgot the little girl who had forgiven the driver all those years ago. She kept a photo of the girl on her desk, and she thought of her often as she worked to make the museum a success. One day, Lena received a surprise visitor. It was the little girl, all grown up now, and with a child of her own. She had heard about the museum and the driver's art collection, and she had come to see it for herself. Lena was overjoyed to see the girl again, and they spent the afternoon catching up and looking at the art. As they walked through the museum, Lena told the girl the story of the driver and the accident, and how his act of kindness had inspired her to create the museum. The girl listened intently, and when Lena finished the story, she took her hand and looked her in the eye. "You know," she said, "I always knew there was something special about you, and now I know what it is. You have a heart full of forgiveness, and it shines through everything you do." Lena felt a lump form in her throat as she looked into the girl's eyes. She had never realized how much the little girl's forgiveness had impacted her life, and how much it had shaped her into the person she was today. As the girl left the museum that day, Lena felt a deep sense of gratitude and contentment. She knew that she had found her purpose in life, and that she had been given a second chance to make a difference in the world. Over the years, Lena continued to run the museum with passion and dedication, always striving to make it better and more meaningful. She never forgot the driver, or the little girl, or the power of forgiveness, and she made sure that their stories were told to every person who walked through the museum's doors. And so, years later, when Lena lay on her deathbed, surrounded by her family and friends, she smiled and closed her eyes, knowing that she had lived a life full of love and forgiveness, and that she had made a difference in the world. As Lena took her last breath, her family noticed something strange. On her hand, Lena was holding something tightly, as if she didn't want to let it go. They pried her fingers open and found a small, intricately carved figurine of a bird. No one knew where the figurine had come from, or why Lena had been holding onto it so tightly. But as they looked at it, they noticed something odd. The bird's wings were outstretched, as if it were about to take flight. For years, people speculated about the meaning behind the bird, and why Lena had held onto it so tightly in her final moments. Some believed that it was a symbol of freedom, or of the little girl's forgiveness. Others thought that it was simply a beautiful piece of art that Lena had cherished. But whatever the meaning behind the bird, one thing was certain. It was a reminder of Lena's life, and of the power of forgiveness and love. And as the museum continued to thrive and inspire future generations, people would look at the bird and remember the incredible woman who had brought so much beauty and meaning into the world. Meanwhile, the little girl who had forgiven the driver had grown up to be a remarkable woman. Her name was Maya, and she had become a world-renowned scientist and researcher, dedicating her life to finding cures for some of the world's most deadly diseases. Maya had never forgotten the day when she had woken up in the hospital, holding out her fist to the driver who had hit her. She had always known that forgiveness was a powerful force, and that it had the power to heal even the deepest wounds. And so, as she worked tirelessly in her laboratory, Maya always remembered the driver and the little girl she had once been. She knew that without forgiveness, she would not be where she was today, and she was grateful for the lessons she had learned. One day, as Maya was walking through the streets of her hometown, she saw a familiar face. It was the driver who had hit her so many years ago, and who had changed her life forever. Maya felt a rush of emotions as she looked at the man. Anger, sadness, and forgiveness all warred within her, and she wasn't sure what to do. But then, as she looked into the driver's eyes, something changed. She saw a deep sadness and regret in his gaze, and she knew that he was truly sorry for what he had done. Without a word, Maya walked up to the driver and took his hand. And as they stood there on the sidewalk, looking at each other, she knew that forgiveness was the only way forward. Maya and the driver stood there for what felt like hours, simply looking at each other and holding hands. And as they stood there, Maya felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. She knew that forgiving the driver had been the right thing to do, and that it had brought her a sense of healing and closure that she had never thought possible. Eventually, the driver spoke. "I'm so sorry for what I did all those years ago," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I never should have been driving that day, and I should have been paying more attention. I don't know how you can forgive me for what I've done." Maya looked at the driver and smiled. "It's okay," she said. "I forgave you a long time ago. And besides, look at where I am now. If it hadn't been for that accident, I might not be doing the work I'm doing today." The driver nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so grateful for your forgiveness," he said. "I don't deserve it, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you and to everyone else I've hurt." Maya smiled and squeezed the driver's hand. "You don't have to make it up to me," she said. "Just keep doing the right thing, and know that forgiveness is always possible, no matter how deep the wounds." As Maya and the driver parted ways, Maya felt a sense of lightness that she had never felt before. She knew that forgiving the driver had been the right thing to do, and that it had brought her a sense of peace and closure that she had never thought possible. Over the next few years, Maya continued to work with children and families, helping them to find their way through difficult times and to heal from trauma. She knew that her work was important, and that she was making a difference in the lives of those around her. One day, Maya received an unexpected phone call. It was the driver, and he was crying on the other end of the line. "Maya," he said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I've been diagnosed with cancer. The doctors say that it's terminal, and that I don't have much time left." Maya felt a lump form in her throat. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Is there anything I can do to help?" The driver paused for a moment. "I was hoping that you could come and visit me," he said. "I know that I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I would be so grateful if you could find it in your heart to see me one last time." Maya thought about it for a moment. She knew that visiting the driver would be difficult, but she also knew that forgiveness was always possible, even in the face of death. "Okay," she said. "I'll come and see you." A few days later, Maya found herself sitting by the driver's bedside in the hospice. He was gaunt and pale, and his breaths came in shallow gasps. "Maya," he whispered, "I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I don't know how to make it right." Maya took his hand in hers. "You don't have to make it right," she said. "I forgave you a long time ago." The driver's eyes widened in surprise. "You did?" he asked. Maya nodded. "Yes," she said, "and I want you to know that I don't hold any grudges against you. I'm here because I care about you, and because I want to help you through this difficult time." The driver's face crumpled, and tears spilled down his cheeks. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you so much." Over the next few hours, Maya sat with the driver, holding his hand and listening as he talked about his life. She learned that he had been a truck driver for most of his adult life, and that he had never married or had children. She also learned that he had always regretted what he had done to her, and that he had carried the guilt with him for years. As the hours passed, the driver's breathing grew more labored, and Maya knew that he was slipping away. She leaned in close to him and whispered, "It's okay. You can let go now." The driver took one final breath, and then he was gone. Maya sat with him for a few moments longer, feeling a sense of sadness and loss wash over her. But she also felt a sense of peace, knowing that she had been able to offer him forgiveness and comfort in his final moments. In the days that followed, Maya spent a lot of time thinking about the driver and the impact that their encounter had had on both of their lives. She realized that forgiveness was a powerful thing, and that it had the ability to heal even the deepest wounds. With that in mind, Maya decided to write a book about her experience. She wanted to share her story with others in the hopes that it would inspire them to let go of their own grudges and find forgiveness in their hearts. The book was a hit, and Maya became something of a celebrity. People from all over the world wrote to her, thanking her for sharing her story and telling her how it had touched their lives. Maya was amazed and humbled by the response, and she felt a sense of pride knowing that her experience had made a difference to others. Years went by, and Maya grew older. She never forgot about the driver, and she often thought about him and wondered what his life would have been like if he had never hit her with his car. But she also knew that their encounter had changed both of their lives in profound ways, and that it had ultimately led her down a path of forgiveness and healing. As Maya approached the end of her life, she looked back on all that she had experienced, both good and bad, and she realized that the little girl who had been hit by a car so many years ago had grown into a woman of great strength and resilience, who had touched the lives of countless people with her story of forgiveness and hope. Thank you for watching. If you like this story, then subscribe to the channel and like this video. See you around.